Good morning. I'd like to call the meeting to order and acknowledge that we are in Treaty 1 territory, the home and traditional lands of the Anishinaabe, Innu, and Dakota peoples, and in the national homeland of the Red River Métis. Our drinking water comes from Shoal Lake 40 First Nation in Treaty 3 territory. My name is Ian Mann, and I will be chairing the meeting today. Joining me as panel members on Zoom are Gail Anderson and Ron Merritt. The assessment department personnel are Nuwan Thudugala Munasinga and Matthew Barakas, and the administrative personnel present today is Nicole Carnegie. To the Zoom participants of this hearing, please note you are placed in the waiting room until your property is called upon. When it is your turn, you will be admitted into the meeting. Kindly follow along the City of Winnipeg's Board of Revision YouTube channel for the hearing process. Once the host admits you into the hearing, please close or mute your YouTube player. You will then be permitted to speak with respect to your property. Once your hearing has concluded, you can leave the meeting. We will be hearing applications for revision of the assessment roll in accordance with the Municipal Assessment Act, and the matters for which revision is requested have been described in each application, and we will limit our discussion to those matters. The statements that are made at this hearing are sworn testimony, and anyone speaking to the matters must be sworn in. Be advised that comparisons of assessments of properties are not considered evidence of market value by the Board of Revision. The Board of Revision is appointed annually by Council and is independent of it and the City Administration. It makes its decisions on the basis of the evidence provided at this hearing and issues a written order that will be mailed to all parties as soon as possible. Please note that the Board's decisions with respect to an application may be appealed to the Manitoba Municipal Board if the matter pertains to assessed value or classification, or to the Court of King's Bench if the matter pertains to the application of exemptions from taxation. Should you wish to appeal, information on how to do so will be included with the board order. With respect to the hearing process, I will confirm the points of appeal with your property to be addressed with each applicant following swearing in. We will then have the assessor's testimony followed by questions that the applicant may have, and then the applicant's testimony followed by questions. Each side will have an opportunity to summarize if they wish. Once all of the evidence about an application has been brought forward, the applicant may leave. The process will repeat for each item on the docket today, and the session will close after all of the applications have been heard. The board will deliberate in private and make its decisions, and you will receive the board's decision by registered mail as soon as possible. As information, all public hearings are live streamed, recorded, and will be part of the public record. We will be hearing items 1 through 5 on our docket today. Ms. Carnegie, will you please affirm both assessors and the first applicant's testimony?
Okay, Mr. Sharples and Mr. Van Bergen, we will just put you back in the waiting room till your item is called, okay? Okay, Mr. Barakas, please state your full name.
Matthew Barakas.
You affirm that the evidence you're about to give at this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Thudugala Munasinga, please state your full name.
Nuwan Thudugala Munasinga.
You affirm that the evidence you're about to give at this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, Ms. Kim, please state your full name.
Vincent Kim.
Do you affirm that the evidence you're about to give at this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you.
Mr. Assessor, the first matter on the docket today is the address at 575 Ellis Avenue. Would you please make your presentation?
File number 2300, roll number 13050495100, 575 Ellis Avenue, roll year 2024, reference date April 1st, 2021, classification 20 taxable. Assessed value come at 584,000. One building, and effective year build 1955. No indoor parking, 3 outdoor parking. Page 2, you can see the location of the property. Page 3, you can see the pictures, exterior picture. Up-to-date income and expense mailer. And also in page 4, you can see recent sales. One is in April 2015 for 530,000, and then in 2018 670,000. You can see our income summary in page 5. All model driven parameters and values. The property has 6 one-bedroom, 2 two-bedrooms, altogether 8 units. Average monthly rent 754, plus potential income 72,418. Expense ratio 53.31%. Net operating income comes at 32,730. Cap rate comes at 5.6. The final estimated values comes at 584,000. In page 6, you can see rent comparable. Average rent for the subject property 754, and the most comparables for the subject property 2 and 3. The average rent for those 757, and 871. I feel this income is correct. That means it's helped our value. In page 7, it's a capitalization rates table. You can see our capitalization rates. Page 8, we have capitalization rate evidence supported to our capitalization rates. I think 677 Maryland is the best sales for our capitalization rate. That's helped. So page 9 shows municipal assessment and experts. Yeah, page last page, we just add the sales information. We don't put any weights on it. Everything's on model, and that's all our presentation.
Thank you. Ms. Kim, you have an opportunity to ask the assessor questions now. Do you have any questions for the assessor?
Nope, not at this time.
Okay, thank you. Then Mr. Merritt, have you any questions?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I thank you. I note, Mr. Assessor, that there was a sale on the property in 2018 for $670,000, and your assessment for this property is approximately, give or take, $100,000 less. So, we are after market value, whether it be an income stream. So I'm just wondering, did you give consideration at all to the sale that happened, in 2018 to reach your conclusion? And why offhand would it be $100,000 less?
We are not attention to details on the sales, but everything's go on the model. That's our assessment shown there.
So you're just, because the model speaks to itself, you're defending the model then?
Yes.
All right. I don't think I have any further questions, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Anderson?
My question just related to the sale too, so it's been asked and answered. Thanks.
Thank you. I have a question with respect to the sale. First of all, frequently after a sale has taken place, a sale questionnaire is filled out by the new purchaser. Was that and sent to the city? Was that done for the sale on March 8th, 2018?
I think, as I know, it's no.
No, we don't have that. Something I did notice is that when you look at the sale, if you follow us to the end there, page 10, not that a realtor's workup is necessarily often the most accurate representation, but they are declaring a net operating income of $34,814 on the sale. If you look at the second last big row, and if you look at our modeled net operating income, we're at 32, so we're actually pretty close. So we might actually, by that, saying that you'd probably use a lower cap rate on calculating the sale if they depended on that net operating income, but we're not privy to the details. So we just went with our model on this one.
Okay. So you can't tell me whether this sale was at arm's length or whether it was a related sale?
We don't have that information right now in our brief.
Okay.
So I can't
And has this property been inspected?
No, and that's something just glancing ahead, looking at the applicant's brief based on their contention of the condition that they've turned it into, that's probably something that's going to have to happen.
Okay, thank you. I don't have anything further. Ms. Kim, your presentation, please.
Hi. So I based my value based on the appraisal I had when I purchased the property. And I noticed the city's assessor was using cap rate. It was not evidenced in my evidence, but just by looking at the city's capitalization rate, I'll actually go first from what I had. So based on my appraisal done about 4 years ago, it was at about $700,000 up until I believe the most recent amount that I'm contending, $580,000. The assessed value hadn't been really significantly been increased. As you notice, I have done a bit of work at the house after purchasing the property as well. And I'll just go on to maybe what city may have used, like the income capitalization rate. I was looking at the capitalization rate evidence that was used. I believe it's city's document page 8 and page 5. So city used the rate of 5.6%. If you look at page 7 and 8, I think it's based on the market capitalization rate for low rise. I'm not sure how the low rise categorization is done, but just looking at the evidence rate, I noticed a lot of number of suites are very high, comparable to the concerning property. I only have it at 8 units. A lot of these properties have double the number of the units. So when I filter into maybe 9 units, there's 2 lines on the evidence, and I got a lower. I was able to use lower capitalization rate, which would actually value the property. If I was to use 4.2 or sometime between 4.7, it was close to $700,000 to $800,000 range. And I believe it was asked before to the city assessor, but the sale was at non-arm's length. No, it was an arm's length, so I wasn't related to the purchaser or realtor at the time. It was like a third realtor that I approached in the market, and I don't have any knowledge of who the purchaser was. That's about it.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Assessor, have you any questions?
Yeah, I have one question.
Mhm.
Are you open to do inspection to the property? Like we can see some.
I
Yeah, we
believe we
can.
can arrange that. I mean, as you know, this is apartment property, so if I guess it depends on where you'd like to access. Of course, I'd have to get consent from the tenants for the inspection purposes, and I'm sure we can arrange it.
I understand. Thanks. That's all my question.
Thank you. Ms. Anderson, any questions?
So just to clarify, what are you proposing the assessment should be?
So I was just trying to be more reasonable. I wasn't sure what kind of today's market rate the city uses when they calculate. So I was thinking maybe it should is given consideration for $700,000 plus market rate, or just by look after receiving the city's capitalization rate approach, the income approach. I was thinking in the gap of about $750,000. So that was using the 2 or 3 of the capital rate evidence that they were using, like excluding 90 units, 110 units, 32 units, and 23.
Okay, thank you. Those are all my questions.
Mr. Merritt, have you any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ms. Kim, the city has valued the property at $584,000. Okay, and you paid $670,000, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So, for the record, if you don't mind, maybe you could state what you're seeking the property value to be. It's either, you know, I think you've stated that you'd be happy with, I think, 750,000. So, you know, the city's less. So why are you here to appeal your assessment?
I'm here to appeal to increase the assessment, mainly because it is assessed lower than what I think it should be.
All right, I thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Sure. Thank you. I'm just going to follow up on Mr. Merritt's question as to why you're seeking an increase. And I recognize the mathematical formula that you've used, and I appreciate the work that you've done. But you realize that an increase in assessment could prove financially detrimental.
Yeah.
Or is there a reason that you're seeking an increased assessment beyond the correction that you're pointing out?
Well, I think one of the main reason I think it just kind of triggered me was when I was looking into the, I guess, refinancing options. And every time I do have to do it, the bank or financial institutions require me to get an appraisal done. And because city's assessed value is they require really me to get one, which actually ends up costing me more than thousands of dollars every time I have to get one of these commercial appraisal done. And that was one of the triggers. I looked at it and I wasn't really, this is actually my one of the first one only commercial building. I didn't know that, to be honest, I guess for the lack of me. And I just got me to know more about the city's value. And I just looked at it and kind of researched what I can do about it to minimize cost on my end. So that was the trigger. And I just kind of looked at it, okay, if it is low, then maybe it should be market too. So. And by having like cities assess the value more in line with what the fair value is, the bank doesn't really require as much as detailed information from me. So yeah, so that was the
okay. And I see that this appraisal is dated December of 2017. So it's almost 6 years old, 5 3/4 years old. Have you had any other appraisals done between 2017 and
There was a couple of times the bank asked me, but I don't know if I should call it a luck, but it was during the COVID time, so I was able to work other details, other things with the bank to not have it done a couple of years back, but it is coming up to very soon.
okay, thank you. I don't have anything further. Mr. Assessor, any need for a summary?
Well, thank you.
No, thanks.
Ms. Kim, any need for a summary?
No, I'm okay.
Thank you. And then thank you. This matter is concluded and we will move on to the next matter on the list. Thank you, Ms. Kim. You'll be getting our decision shortly.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I'm just going to readmit Mr. Van Bergen and Mr. Sharples.
Okay. And moving to, let me know when they're readmitted,
Yes.
please.
Hi, Mr. Van Bergen, Mr. Sharples, can you hear us okay?
We can. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Welcome back.
And can you please, we're moving to your properties, the property that you represented, 800 Ravelstone. Madam Clerk, can you please swear them in or affirm them?
Absolutely. Mr. Sharples, please state your full name.
Grayson Sharples.
Do you affirm that the evidence you're about to give at this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Mr. Van Bergen, can you please state your full name?
Certainly. Wesley Van Bruggen.
You affirm that the evidence you're about to give at this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Assessor, we're moving to number 2 on the list here, 800 Ravelstone Avenue. Could you present your evidence, please?
File number 23377, roll number 09010475125, 800 Ravelstone Avenue West, roll year 2024, reference date April 1st, 2021, classification 20 taxable, assessed value come at 14,830,000. This is a 1 billion property, built year 2020. So it's total Swiss count 68. No indoor parking, outdoor parking 102. We have recommendation for this property to reduce the assessment value to 13,714,000 to better reflect the market value. So I'm waiting to get feedback from applicants.
Okay, Mr. Van Bruggen, Mr. Sharples, were you aware of this recommendation?
Yes, Mr. Chair, we did take it to our client. Unfortunately, our client said they were unwilling to accept it, so we'll need to continue on with the process.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Assessor, would you please continue with your presentation, please, and the rest of your evidence?
Page 2 shows the location of the property. This is in a good, nice location. No sales history for the property. Page 4 shows income value summary. All income values and parameters are model driven. This property has total 68 units, 38 2 bedrooms, 10 3 bedrooms, and average monthly rent 1,374. Gross potential income comes at 1,021,723. Expense ratio come at 41%, 41.99%. And also net operating incomes come at 637 1,698. Capitalization rate 4.3. Yeah, it was before the recommendation. Estimated market value came at 14,830,000. Glance ahead, applicant has submitted the same NOI. Only issues is the capitalization rate. Page 5, rent comparable, you can see those come like average monthly rent for the subject property 1,374, and our comparable support that average rent. You can see cap rates on 6 and cap rates evidence in 7. You can see the sales, the first sales in cap rate evidence 2390 McPhillips. That's our like most weighted one. That's 4.7. I think Ravelston is in a better area, so that's our cap rate is lower for that one. So our recommendations based on those information. And next, municipal assessment expert in page 8. Page 9, you can see exterior of the building. Page 10, there's information about property. You can see the suite features and local amenities, those information. And page 11, you can see exterior picture and interior. 12 and 13 also interior pictures. Also 14. This is, I mean, you can see it's a nicer apartment building. And you can see in page 15, unit types and size of the units and suite amenities. I think that's all my presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Sharples. Mr. Van Bruggen, do you have any questions of the assessor?
I have no questions. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
I just have one question, if we can turn to page 7 of the assessor's brief, please. And just let me know when you're there.
Okay.
All right. So for this capitalization rate information, how is the capitalization rate derived? Was that based on model-driven rents or actual owner reported income?
It was based on 3 years of stabilized income and expenses with a known sale price. I stabilize a NOI over a few years, and then with the sale price, you're able to calculate a cap rate on the sale.
Okay, so this is actual in-place income, reported income from the owner. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, so the calculation of capitalization is determined by the net operating income divided by the sale price. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay, so logically, if we work backwards, we'd be able to get the net operating income for these properties. Just because I know you don't have the net, I just noticed you don't have the net operating income reported here. Would that be a correct statement?
Yeah, over 3 years. Stabilized.
Yeah. Okay, so if we take the 19.4 million, we multiply it by the 4.79%, we get an NOI of about $930,000. Is that correct?
I believe, I'll take your word for it.
Okay. And then if we divide that by the number of units, we get 90 units, we get about $10,300 per unit. Is that correct?
10,000 per unit?
Yeah, per unit per year.
Net operating income per unit.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then if we divide that, we get about $860 per month. So you're telling me that this property is generating a stabilized rent of $860 per month?
That would be net operating income after expenses.
After expenses.
That's different.
Okay, after.
I've never gone
consideration
through that analysis that way before, because then you'd be deriving what sort of income they'd be getting after all the costs like insurance and repairs and property.
So
whatever.
if we,
that's like an accurate metric to really use.
And then if we consider if we consider typical expenses of, let's say, 40%, we're getting $2,000 per unit, give or take.
You know what? That's not in my presentation. I don't have those calculations in front of me. I can tell you what I did do, because I was the one who made this table. I looked at 3 years of income and operating income and expense statements, and then I calculated a stabilized NOI, and then with the sale price calculated out to actually 4.71. The calculations will appear later in the form of rebuttal for future property, so that the panel will have the opportunity to see that, but I didn't submit for this one, though I should have. And the location of this property is in North Winnipeg. If you look at the location of the property, it's surrounded on all sides by a car dealership. There's a Walmart on the other side. As you go down the road, that is the access road to get to the Walmart. So you're contending with Walmart traffic. This building is newer. It's in a better area of the city. Therefore, we made the recommendation of 465 instead of it should say 471, but it says 479 because there was a slight typo. So we're very confident in our cap rate recommendation.
Okay. If we can go to page 6. Is anyone reporting a sub-5 capitalization rate for Colliers, any third party reporting a sub-5 capitalization rate for high-rise or low-rise apartments?
Well, Colliers, when I've seen their reports, well, no, not on this. Yeah. I won't answer a question in ask, so no.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I think that concludes our questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Ms. Anderson, any questions?
I have no questions. Thank you. Thanks for your presentation.
Mr. Merritt, questions?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Assessors, originally, before the recommendation, you had a cap rate of 4.3. Then with the recommendation, you have a cap rate of 4.65. What prompted the increase in the cap rate?
Well, we have a high degree of physical similarity, year built, and overall tenant pool that we pulled from when you're looking this in comparison to 2390 McPhillips, which is slightly older. It's in a more undesirable location given its immediate commercial adjacent surroundings. So I thought that 4.3 was too much of a gap, but I did think that it should be still a bit lower than 2390 McPhillips. So we brought it up, but we didn't bring it up all the way to that calculated cap rate.
So the final conclusion in regards to cap rate, which is 4.65, was that all model driven or was there an override?
Well, the recommendation was a decision that we made.
I note that the client's presentation is coming up, but basically NOIs and expenses are exactly the same. So it's just a matter of cap rate.
Yeah.
Okay. I thank you very kindly. Thank you.
I have a follow-up question with respect to the capitalization rates. I see from the table on page 6 that the range from the 20th percentile to the 80th percentile is 4.8% to 5.6%. What is it about this building that brings it below the 20th percentile, puts it in the top, 20 percentile of the best buildings for the multifamily?
Well, for one, it's age. I'd say that's probably the most prevalent. When you look at the pictures at the end of the brief, I'd say that's probably in the top 20% of condition that you would see for properties in Winnipeg. And not for nothing, we've got the calculation for 2390. McPhillips, which supports our recommended cap rate. So quite confident. I've done cap rate studies past where the newer, larger buildings, they generate the lowest caps. Also the newer, smaller buildings too, even more so. But we're quite confident. We're not overstepping ourselves here.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Van Bruggen, Mr. Sharples, your evidence, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll give everyone a second. I'll just begin on page 3 of our evidence submission. So just a brief description of the property. Again, it's a 68-suite apartment complex located in Transcona. It has an effective year of construction of 2020. The current assessment amount is $14,830,000, and we are requesting that be reduced to $12,753,000. On page 4, we just have a snippet of the current assessment. And so again, here on page 5, we just have a breakdown of our request. So we have no concerns with the assessed potential income or vacancy or expense allowance. We're just requesting that the capitalization rate be increased to 5%. And this is how we've derived our requested assessment of $12,753,000. On pages 6 and 7, we just have the valuation breakdown of the property. And then on page 8, we have the assessment map and a satellite map of the subject property. And pages 9, 10, and 11, we just have some satellite imaging and street view photos. Don't believe we need to spend much time on that. And beginning on page 12, we have our capitalization rate analysis. So the first thing we did is we looked at some comparable sales, and these 4 sales in the table at the top of the page were the only 4 that we could find where the year of construction was after 1980. So the first sale we found, 100 Maryland, was built in 2017. It's a bit of a smaller complex, but it sold for $2,050,000. It has 11 units, and so that gives us a sale price per unit of $186,364. The next 3 were all constructed in the 80s. This is 607 Layla, 140 Eugenie, and 349 Nova Vista. These 3 properties all sold for value per unit ranging from $103,000 to about $154,000. And so the average and median from these sales are closer in the range of $140,000 per unit. And the assessment of the subject property is at $218,000 $100,000 per unit. Now, understanding that 100 Maryland Street, the first one in there, is the only property that's truly comparable in terms of age, with it being a newer property. This one at 186,000, we believe, is where subject property should be valued, somewhere closer to that range. So we've eliminated the 3 sales that were constructed in the 80s. And at the bottom of the page, we've derived a cap rate from that sale. So unfortunately, we don't have any of the income information for that property. So we've just used the assessed potential income and derived a cap rate using all the same parameters from the subject property assessment. And that gets us to a cap rate of 4.97%. And so we believe that a cap rate of 5% would be reasonable to use for this property. And on the following pages, this is supported by third-party market data. So on the top of page 13, we have the table that was presented earlier. And so again, just looking at these multifamily cap rates in Winnipeg, we see Colliers is reporting rates from 5% to 6% for low and high rise. CBRE for low rise A quality, which is what we would expect this to be classified. They're reporting cap rates ranging from 5.25 to 5.75%. And then Cushman for low-rise properties reporting rates from 5% to 5.75%. And so again, we believe that the 5% is on the lower end of the range reported by third-party market data. And given this is a newer property, we believe that to be a reasonable capitalization rate. And then on the bottom of page 13, we just have some rental market statistics from CMHC. And this just shows that market rents are increasing. We would expect that the increase in market rents would lead to increased NOIs and higher cap rates. And so on page 14, again, just in conclusion, we are requesting that the capitalization rate be adjusted to 5% for a total requested value of $12,753,000. And then on pages 15 and 16, we've just provided the notice of hearing. And on page 17, we just have some photos of the comparables that we've used. So page 17, this is 100 Maryland. This is the comparable that we've used to derive our cap rate. It was constructed in 2017. So again, a newer property. And then on pages 18 and 19, we just have some satellite images of the other 3 comparables that we've used. And page 20 onwards, we just have the City of Winnipeg assessment guidelines. So again, we're requesting that the capitalization rate be increased to 5% and respectfully request the board to reduce the assessment to $12,753,000. Thank you, and welcome any questions.
Thank you very much, Mr. Assessor. I'm not sure who's going to be asking the questions, but do you have any?
Yes, can you go to the page 12, please?
Yep.
100 Maryland, the sales date post reference, isn't it?
It is, yeah. Again, it was very difficult for us to track down sales of properties that were similar in terms of year of construction. And so although this did occur after the valuation date, we do believe it is the most accurate representation.
Okay, that's all my question. Thanks.
Thank you.
Mr. Merritt, any questions?
I have none, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Ms. Anderson?
I have no questions. Thank you. Thanks for your presentation.
And I don't have any questions. Thank you for your presentation. Mr. Assessor, any need to summarize?
No, I think we're okay. Just a quick break after this one, please.
Okay, certainly. Mr. Van Bruggen, Mr. Sharples, any summary?
I think we're good as well. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much. Then we will conclude this matter and move on to the next one. Thank you, gentlemen, for your time and your presentation, and you will receive our decision shortly via registered mail. And if we can take a short break before,
Absolutely.
5 minutes enough, or you can do a little more than that?
Yeah, five should be fine.
Okay, great. We'll take 5 minutes. We'll see you back here about 10:05. Thank you. Welcome back. Turning to number 3 on the list, street address 2600 McPhillips. The only brief I have as a preliminary matter, or the only information I have, is a copy of an email from Mr. Thudugala Munasinghe to the Board of Revision regarding the fact that a supplemental assessment was sent on September 7th, 2023. That's the only information I have. Is there a representative of the applicant here?
Yes.
Yes, 2300 McPhillips.
Yes.
Okay, perhaps we should swear in.
Yes, absolutely. Okay. Mr. Applicant, please state your full name.
Trevor Smith.
You affirm that the evidence you're about to give in this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do.
Thank you.
I can shorten this one up for us.
Please.
I'm simply asking for confirmation of the assessment.
Okay. Seeking confirmation, Mr. Assessor, do you have any questions or do you have any issue with that?
No
No, we
questions.
don't have.
That was kind of what I anticipated, but Ms. Anderson, any questions?
I have no questions. Thank you.
Mr. Merritt?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
My only question is, given this is the only information we have, this email, what is the value that we are confirming?
Let me pull that up here.
Oh, sorry, there was an additional, sorry, I have the 2024 property assessment notice. I don't think that was attached to my one last night. Anyway, it doesn't matter. So the confirmation amount is the $1,906,000.
That sounds familiar. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Thank you. That was
Sorry. So we're not. I don't have instructions from the owner to withdraw it, which is why we're
Right.
confirming it at this point. But it was the 2024 assessment that is under appeal, I believe.
is it just the land assessment? Is it not?
Is it just the land?
Well, what is under appeal? That's, I guess, some of the information I'm looking for. I have the land assessment at $1,906,000, and I have another assessment, assessor advice with respect to the, it looks like property and land, of a total assessment of $26,931,000. What amount are we confirming?
The 1,906,000. It has been subbed subsequently. So if we're to argue about the land value for 2024, it would just be superseded anyway.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry.
So-
That's now I recall the order of when those came out. So yes, it is the 1,906,000.
So we're all on the same page with respect to what the confirmed value should be.
Yes.
Okay. Are there any questions arising out of that, Ms. Anderson or Mr. Merritt?
I have no questions. Thank you.
Thank you. I will try to remain. Well, I'll try to.
No,
get,
I have no, Mr. Chairman.
try to get less confused as we go along. Thank you. Then moving to item 4 on the docket, 920 Chancellor Drive. Mr. Assessor, could you lead us through your presentation, please?
Thanks. File number 23109, roll number 03091643300, 92 Chancellor Drive, roll year 2024, reference date April 1st, 2021, classification 20 taxable, assessed value come at 17,759,000. This is one building built in 2021. This is a newly built apartment. Number of indoor suites 28, number of outdoor parking 77, total suites 98. In the second page, you can see the location of the property. This is a 3-minute drive from the UOM, and the surrounding area has every amenities so page 3, you can see the income value summary. 59 1 bedroom, 39 2 bedrooms, total units 98, average rent per month 1,258, gross potential income 1,479,537, expense ratio 41%, 41.74. Net operating income comes at 825,775. Glancing ahead, the applicant has submitted the same NOI, and all values and parameters model driven. So only issue is the capitalization rate. So estimated capitalization rates, our capitalization rate is 4.65, and our market value 17,759,000. I am not going to present the income information because we are agree with the we all in a one page in a NOI. So so I am going to page 7, capitalization rate. So you can see the capitalization rate, and page 8 you can see the capitalization rates evidence, and we have submitted the rebuttal for this capitalization rate evidence. So we have put weight on 23.9 McPhillips. That's the best sale we can see to wait on. The subject is 4.65. It's in a better area. I think that's a good capitalization rate for the subject property. Then we can move on to the page 10. Page 10, you can see the quality of the building, interior of the building, and page 11 the same. Page 12, you can see the amenities. This one has a lot of amenities, and it's look like a luxury apartment. Page 14, also you can see the amenities and the information about it. And lastly, I just add the cost of construction. I think that's all in the presentation.
Thank you. Mr. Smith, have you any questions?
I do have questions, just given workload, I imagine for the two properties we have here today, you haven't had a chance to inspect them?
That's correct.
Okay. Looking at the suite count, I see that you have 59 one bedrooms and 39 two bedrooms. Just wondering where those counts came from.
Came from information received from the property owner.
Okay. And looking at if that count were to be different, which it is, if there were bachelor apartments or studio apartments included in there, would that change the modeling of the property and therefore change the valuation as well?
If it was off model, typically when we get information from the property owner, we use their actual rents in place. However, this one actually is a 55 plus assisted living, so it would have just gone on the modeled rates. So yes, it would have changed, but I don't think net operating income is something that's in dispute today. So
no, it's not, and I don't want to belabor the point. Just that there is a gap between what is built and what's showing as far as the unit counts go. But I'll leave that there. And just to have a quick look at that, we flip to page number 10 of the city brief. You look at the top of the page, that would be indicative of a studio apartment. Is that fair to say?
I think so, unless there's a separate room on the side.
Well, it's not a separate room. It has a divider that they move into place, but it is all one room.
If it was all one room, then yes, it would be studio.
Okay. All right. Moving forward to capitalization rate, as you've indicated, cap rate is really our only dispute here. As mentioned by the previous appellant, when I look at the city's capitalization rate chart on page number 7, and I look at the exterior national commercial brokerages, none of them are indicating capitalization rates below 5%. Is that correct?
That's what it says.
Okay. And then just flipping quickly to page 8, and this questioning can carry forward to the following property as well. We don't need to do this twice, really. The city's model is based on the income and expense information submitted by property owners each year, as well as taking that information and looking at sales that occur and determining capitalization rates based on that information. That's how the model is derived. Is that correct?
Yeah. I mean, we're not in the modeling section, but that's what they do. They look at the income and expenses, they look at the sales, and then they derive model cap rates based on that.
And so the city's model would be dependent on the number of sales that are inputted that are of a similar nature to the properties that are in consideration. Then would there be very many sales of newer built multifamily properties that would be included in the modeling?
Not usually. Typically, if they build them, they keep them. They don't build them and then sell them right away.
So we wouldn't be looking at a very big pool of evidence as far as sales of newly constructed apartments then?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. So if I look at the capitalization rate evidence on page number 8, and so we have 2390 McPhillips, which I also have in my evidence. Would you agree that the stabilization process in determining a cap rate, it is based on the actuals of the property, but there is interpretation and professional judgment used in conducting that stabilization?
Yes.
Okay. And then finally, looking at the last property on page number 8, 1745 Henderson. So this is not a newly built property, but I see that it's in the city's evidence. This would be similar in terms of suite count to the subject property at 110 units. Would that be fair to say?
Yes.
And the capitalization rate of 4.28%, that was the capitalization rate at time of sale based on the in-place income and expense?
Stabilized over
Stabilized.
leading up to the sale.
Okay. And when I look at that particular property online afterwards, it's clear that it's indicated that the property has been fully renovated with new floors and kitchens and bathrooms, windows. So that particular property would not meet the requirements of either appraisal or assessment theory, where properties that are purchased for renovation and to boost the in-place revenue and therefore the return are not considered as true representatives of market transactions with regard to determining a cap rate.
The records we have is that it was renovated prior to the sale. That's why the effective age is in place in regards to the sale. If it was renovated after the sale, that definitely be something that would might fall into the description of the category you just described. But it was renovated and then it was sold. So there you go. We put our weight on 2390 McPhillips in terms of our analysis, given its age similarity. 4.65 makes sense to us.
And then, sorry, just one final question. So I believe, Nuan, that you had indicated that the property was in a superior location. When I look at that being superior to the 2390 McPhillips, and I had heard 2390 McPhillips being described as being in a commercial location adjacent to a Walmart and an automobile dealership, several automobile dealerships, as well as other commercial developments. This particular property in North Fort Richmond, essentially just off of Chancellor, it's located immediately behind significant strip mall, Safeway, etc. Is that correct?
Yeah, there is commercial as well around it. The commercial is not as intensive, and it's also a 3-minute drive from the University of Manitoba, and it's 5 years newer. Like the newer car, it's going to be worth more than the older car. So we think the slight reduction in cap rate is definitely warranted from 2390 McPhillips.
Largely based on age?
Well, that's one of the factors. I would put more. I would contend that it's in a better location given its proximity to the University of Manitoba.
So, with just in that regard, and I don't want to go on at length here, but we really have one point of discussion, that being cap rate. So, in terms of being a better location, would you agree that student housing is impacted by the term length of the University of Manitoba, and they are exposed to greater vacancy risk due to students exiting the rental market at the end of their term, leaving behind their units with additional vacancy occurring over those interim months?
I haven't seen any studies in that regard. I don't know if they show up on the first day of school and then leave after they get their diploma on the last day of school. I'd have to have a report presented to me to either confirm or deny that.
Okay, those are all of my questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Ms. Anderson, any questions?
I have no questions. They've been asked and answered. Thank you very much.
Mr. Merrick?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. There is 98 units in here. And did I hear some, is there assisted living in there too?
Yeah, so the building is a 55 plus assisted living. So that's, I mean, it's post-reference rents, but if they were pre-reference, we wouldn't be using them anyway. So we used modeled parameters, and it just so happens that we agree on the NOI. So there's a cap rate. You can see that there's a bunch of amenities. Fireplace, lounge, jazz club, bistro, you know, so there's a salon in there. So it looks like they put a lot into it.
Yeah, like you said, Mr. Barakas, you both agree on regards to the NOI. So I won't, you know, but you definitely have a different rate for rentals and assisted living, do you not?
Sorry.
Okay.
We're
Did I break up a little?
No, just, okay, in terms of, I mean, we haven't seen Trevor's brief yet.
No, I know that. Okay. Yeah.
So,
okay.
I mean, we just, maybe if we did take a different path, we got to the same spot. So we're kind of just taking her from there.
Okay. But you would normally have a different gross potential in regards to rent versus assisted living, would you not?
Well, I mean, in some instances, there's some real physical differences for assisted living where they have extremely small suites that don't feature like a kitchen, that on the open market, which would rent for less. I mean, that's just a fact. When you look at the pictures in our brief, that doesn't seem to be the case with this one. Looks like a normal apartment. So we're treating it like a normal apartment.
And the you're using the 4.65, and that was there an override in regards to that? Because I guess looking at the other property, when you switched from 4.3 to 4.65, they were built around the same. I think the previous one that we talked about was 2020 built, and this is 2021.
Mm-hmm.
So
no override. Just this was a model, okay. And we feel this rate's right, and likewise a recommendation to bring things one part. You know what I mean?
I thank you, gentlemen. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. No further questions. Thank you.
Thank you. I just have a couple of questions. First of all, with respect to the income calculation, and I also recognize that the net operating income is not in dispute. However, the modeled rates that were used are derived from CMHC tables. Is that correct?
No, they're derived from income and expense statements received by the city of Winnipeg, and then the model looks at properties of similar vintage, similar area, similar size, and based on how close they are characteristic wise, average monthly rent per unit is assigned, including taking into consider the composition of the overall total units.
And does the model take into account, or is there a separate model rate for seniors residences, 55 plus with an assisted living component?
No, there isn't.
Okay. Are there, when the model is producing a cap rate, is there a separate cap rate or a separate category for seniors residences or 55 plus or with an assisted living component?
No.
Okay.
No, there isn't, because we're not valuing it as a closed market assisted living kind of property, because there's a whole business aspect, meal programs, health supports, where the actual rent is way higher, but
Right.
We're not assessing the business component. We're just assessing the property as an open market apartment. It's kind of, I don't think it would transact that way, honestly, because they'd be buying the business as well. But we're not valuing business, right? We're just, so the way that it's been done for these assisted livings is you just ignore the business component and treat them what the for-profit operation as an apartment only would go for.
Okay, thank you. I don't have anything further. Mr. Smith, your evidence, please.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. So the property that we're dealing with here, 920 Chancellor Drive, is known as the Melody. And it is an assisted living facility built in 2021 into 2022, with 2022 being its first operational year. Now, we look at my page number 98. You can see that there are 98 total units in the property. However, the breakdown is different, which I would contend would change the city's valuation somewhat. We have a total of 20 studio units, 58 one-bedroom units, and 22 bedroom units is the composition of the property. That's as it was built. Interesting to note, and again, this would have an impact on overall value as well. All of the studio units and one half of the one bedroom units are designed with shared kitchenettes and laundry facilities. So if you can envision, trying to think of a similar situation, if you envision say a student housing where you have two units side by side, and then they each have a door onto a shared room where their kitchen and laundry facilities are. That's what the studio units are like, as well as one half of the one bedroom unit. So you don't have full kitchen facilities for all of the properties, and then those shared kitchenettes are not a full kitchen either, and we'll get to that when we look at the photos of the property. The unit sizes being assisted living are somewhat smaller than typical apartment size. And the other thing to note here is, as of the valuation date, and indeed as of the end of their first operational year, the property was sitting at a vacancy rate of 62%. So that's at the end of 2022 being their first operational year. Now, part of that, of course, is lease up. The other aspect is whether they are missing the market a little bit. So the lease up for this property is going very, very slowly. much slower than anticipated by the developer and much slower than what one would typically see in the marketplace as well. So let's move forward to the photos of the property, beginning on page number 4. We have a couple of the exterior, one from the front, one from the rear parking area. You can see the exterior. Then we get into the lobby at the front, the common dining area for the assisted living at the bottom of page 5, and then we move into well, there's another amenity at the top of page 6, and then we get into the units themselves at the bottom of page 6. Just some basics as far as the build out goes. You can see the build out in the bathroom specific to seniors, really, and move into some of the other photos on the following pages. If we look at my page number 10, this is an example of that shared kitchenette and laundry area, both at the top and bottom of page number 10 there. So that's what that would look like. The site itself, if we look at my page number 12, you can see where it's located. I would contend we're certainly not in a superior position to the sale at 2390 McPhillips. This is a long, narrow site that is essentially an infill. They've taken a lot that wasn't highly prized, and they've created their development on it. Based on the marketplace, as you can see, it is sitting directly behind that strip mall there. So we're located at Chancellor and Pembina, just immediately south of Bishop Grandin there. So you have a couple of gas stations. You have a McDonald's location as you move just beyond this strip mall. You have Safeway, etc. in that location. So that's where the property sits. The location obviously is shown on page number 13. And you can see the surrounding area there. So let's move on to the actual valuation itself. We're not contending the net operating income. I do provide some background for you with regard to the subject property in there, but ultimately we are in agreement with the net operating income. What I will point out is that obviously the lease up for the property is going quite slowly, and their vacancy is significantly higher than anticipated. So we would anticipate, given that fact, that they would experience under a normal circumstance a greater vacancy than what you typically find in the marketplace. However, we're not asking for any increase to the vacancy rate in our valuation, but we will obviously recognize that in the overall market value for the subject property. So let's move on to the crux of the matter, that being capitalization rate. So I believe Matthew has already referred to independent living and assisted living. Obviously, the difference with there being a business component in place, and the challenge for everybody is to value the real estate and not the business. So this does pose some issues. I'll just quote a little bit of information on page number 19. We look at my top paragraph there. It is recognized that independent living apartment projects include a business component that makes comparison to general market apartment properties somewhat inappropriate. The business component reflects the investment on behalf of the owner in staffing and equipment and other amenities. This characteristic of the property type would be expected to increase the risk inherent in the investment, should be reflected in a premium over capitalization rates for more conventional investments. In addition, it must be recognized the marketplace for tenants in an independent living universe is much reduced from the general market apartment by age, etc. But individuals also narrowed by individuals that have the ability to pay the required rate for the shelter, housing, nutrition, etc. that they're paying for, typically being 2,500 minimum, and well up from there for their shelter costs. So the cost to locate to rent one of these units is quite significant based on the amenities that are provided, that largely being meal service and some other services. Both of these factors support the notion of a risk-related premium for cap rates for this type of asset. Now, as Matthew mentioned, we are not valuing the business, we're valuing the real estate. But what you're left with is a property that does have a narrow band in terms of the potential renters for it out in the marketplace. You have significantly additional amenity space, as you can see in the subject property from the city's brief with regard to the dining room, the libraries, the number of things that the city has indicated here, all of which are nicely named, but are basically not any different from what you find in other assisted living facilities. So while it's maybe called the Diva's Salon, it's a room that the residents can come and get their hair cut in, which a lot of the assisted living facilities have, where you have a barber or a hairdresser come in once a week and occupy that unit. It's not like they have a full-time hairdresser, etc. The balance of the amenities are like that. So you have this significant amount of additional space that adds additional costs, operating costs to the properties. You also have units that are typically smaller. Typically, they don't have fully built out kitchens. If we look at this, some of the units do have full kitchens. Some of them have kitchenettes, and some of them have shared kitchenettes in a separate room where they're sharing with an adjacent unit holder. So you take that property and you put it on the market. What is your market for that property, and how should it be appropriately valued? Well, you have an increased risk, obviously, for vacancy based on size, build out, etc. What are you going to draw to that property to have it be equivalent to a standard market apartment? I'll guide you to my page number 19. And this particular section here is not to present particular capitalization rates, as in we should look at a capitalization rate of X, but simply to point out the gap between seniors housing capitalization rates of various types and standard market apartments. So if you look at, again, my page 19, middle of the page, we have an article from the Canadian Property Valuation magazine, which is for Canadian appraisers, commercial appraisers, titled Valuation of Seniors Housing. The graph that's included here gives you a time horizon of capitalization rates for 3 different types of housing, that being standard market apartments, seniors housing, and then personal care properties. So if you look at the graph itself, the lowest line and the lowest capitalization rates are standard market apartments, that being apartment high-rise A classification. The line immediately above that would be seniors housing A, and care properties A being the highest graphed line there. So those being care home facilities, etc. So we're not looking at those. The seniors housing A represents independent living and assisted living facilities. So you can see the delta in capitalization rate being presented between standard market apartments and assisted living. Now, that gap is partially accounted for by the capitalization rates taking into account the business component in those transactions, but there's also the inherent additional risk that I've already referred to. So you can see that there would be a gap between standard market apartments and independent assisted living facilities. Let's move on from there to my page number 20. And our capitalization rate study, you can see we've included 15 sales here. Not all of them are obviously identical to the property. Not all of them are as new. Not all of them are the same size, etc. But what this gives you is a range of sales that astute investors were willing to pay for market apartments in City Winnipeg based on the in-place income and expense. So these properties were not purchased for renovation and to change the return to the investor. So what I will do is point you to 3 in particular, those being the newest newly built or newer built transactions. So that would be my sale number 3, 2390 McPhillips. My sale number 5, 703 St. Anne's, and sale number 6, 100 Southview. So 2390 McPhillips has already been referred to by the City of Winnipeg. We do have a gap in valuation from the city to ourselves, cap rate that we developed after looking at the income and expense for the property came out to 5% on that transaction happening in 2020. Newly built property in 2015. 703 St. Anne's. This is a slightly smaller property at 34 units. Built in 2020, sold in 2021 at a cap rate of 5.3%. This property is marketed as a luxury apartment, and it backs onto the Seine River to the south of Bishop Grandin in that stretch of St. Vital. So quite a nice facility. And then finally, we have number 6. 100 Southview. This is the townhouse development in Southwest Winnipeg. In the new development in Southwest Winnipeg, built in 2015, transacting in 2021. 148 units, and we have a cap rate of 4.95%. Now, is a townhouse exactly the same thing? No, it's not, but they're buying newly built property, well tenanted, very well located, superior to the subject. And the capitalization rate that the market saw fit to pay on that, on a property that was widely marketed, was 4.95%. The rest of them you can see there, as well as their sale dates, age, etc. Obviously they range, but for the most part, we're looking at cap rates between 5% and call it 5.75% for the most part. The 3 most recent ones being 5%, or rather 3 most recent constructed sales being 2390 McPhillips at 5%, 703 St. Anne's at 5.3%, and 100 Southview at 4.95%. Now, let's look at what the main commercial real estate brokerages are indicating with regard to capitalization rate. Now, it's already referred to in the city's materials, so I won't go through it at length, but if you look at my page 21, you can see Colliers is indicating in both high-rise and low-rise apartments for the end of 2020, a range of 5 to 6% for investment grade market apartments. 5% being the bottom end. Similarly, page 22 and 23, CB Richard Ellis is indicating a range for high-rise B properties between 5 and 5.5%, and 5.25% and to 5.75% for low-rise A properties. Subject property is probably considered a mid-rise, essentially, looking at the construction, etc. So market participants, based on their experience in the marketplace, both of transactions and investor feeling, as they're constantly in contact with national and local investors, is that the range is essentially 5 to 6% for market apartments. Now, we've discussed the additional risk that an investor takes on with regard to purchase of a property such as this, an independent living. And we have increased or rather selected capitalization rate of 5.5% in our valuation in order to account for this, looking at the quality, the demand, the location, and the risk from an investment perspective. So we are using 5.5%. The summary of our valuation is shown on page number 25. So if we use the cap rate of 5.5, we come to a rounded market value of $15,014,000. Now, if we look into the addenda, I've included the income and expense from the first operational year of the subject property. But I will also point out, and this is up to the panel, how you view this. We did represent a newly constructed property at 20 Cal Gardner Drive, this being shown on my page A21 onwards. The 2023 appeal for that.
I'm going to stop you right there, Mr. Smith. We don't consider assessments of other properties as evidence here, and we're not going to consider that. I noticed that in your brief, and thank you for including it, but it's not something this panel is going to consider.
Okay, and that's entirely up to the panel, and I understand the reason for that. What I will indicate is that I'm not comparing assessment to assessment. What we're looking at is precedent and decisions by the panel based on essentially the same information. And we had a newly built property decided at a cap rate of 5%, as we had suggested, and 2 independent livings in the Linden Woods area, very good quality properties, decided at a cap rate of 5.5%, all of which I represented, and the material is there for you to see if you wish. And that is my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Mr. Assessor, questions?
Yeah, I submitted some rebuttal to the applicant's brief. That happens now, if I'm not mistaken, or does it happen after questions?
It usually happens after the questions, after the presentation. There's questions on the evidence and then rebuttal. If it's that's the process I would prefer to follow.
Okay, that's totally, that works for us. Okay, so all right, if we can go to page 19, please. There is the blurb at the top indicating that the business component reflects investment on behalf of the owner in terms of staffing and equipment. The characteristic of property type would be expected to increase the risk inherent and should be reflected in the premium. Would you agree that we're not, for the exercise we're doing today, recognizing that increased staffing and equipment requirement?
Yeah, absolutely. As I discussed in my presentation there, we're not valuing the business, and that's not the additional risk that I was referring to.
Yeah. Because if we were, there would be a lot of additional income as well that would follow that higher cap rate, would there not?
Absolutely, and again, that's not what I'm referring to as the additional risk, but I do agree with you that we're not valuing the business.
Okay, and then just in terms of on page 20, you've got your cap rate sales. Did you do stabilized workups for the sales on your list 1 through 15?
Yes, absolutely. We went through the same, we went through the standard process as guided by the Appraisal Institute of Canada in determining the capitalization rates running through income and expense and stabilization.
Okay, and 703 St. Anne's, did that sale go through land titles? Because I don't see it in our records.
I don't recall whether that went through land titles or not.
Okay, and then 100 Southview, that's the physical of that property, would you agree, is more akin to a series of attached single-family dwellings in the Bridgewater Forest area?
As I mentioned, they are townhomes located in the Bridgewater Forest area, but they are rental townhomes, as noted. Yes, they have garages, etc., but they are all attached townhomes.
Okay. I think those are our questions, actually. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Merritt, have you any questions?
Can't hear him.
Mr. Merritt, you're muted, I think.
Sorry. Good morning, Mr. Smith.
Good morning, Mr. Merritt.
I just have a question. Mr. Smith, you had that there is 20 shoes in the
Sorry to interrupt, Mr. Merritt, but you're breaking up.
and
We're having a hard time hearing you, Mr. Merritt. Did you want to do what we did in the hearing yesterday? Would you be able to leave the meeting and rejoin, Mr. Merritt?
I'll just put my cursor.
We can't hear you, Mr. Merritt.
Okay. I'll just my cursor on the mic. Okay.
I think he was indicating he's going to come back.
Okay. Now?
Mr. Merritt, maybe you could try turning off your video.
How about now?
If you turn off your video, that might be helpful.
I did. Okay.
Yep.
How's that?
We can hear you now. Yeah, we can.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. All right. Going back to Mr. Smith's presentation. Mr. Smith, you had brought up that there are 20 studio units that comes off of the city's 39 two-bedrooms. Is that correct?
Yes, I was just laying out the breakdown being the 20 studio units, let me get to that page, 58 one beds and 22 beds.
Yeah. So where was this information? Did you talk to the owners in regards to what they have exactly? Because I'm just wondering, the city's, doesn't have any studio units.
Yeah, so that is taken directly from the ownership, and it is as built. I'm not sure where the city's, and I understand the city said they got their information from the developer or whatever, but I'm not sure where the gap came in there, but this is what was actually constructed.
You had specified that the vacancy rate is as high as 62%. However, you didn't use anything higher, or you just went along with the city's vacancy rate?
We did, and to be fair, they're in the lease up period during that 62%, but it is much higher than anticipated and continues to be so. So that was really what we were indicating with that. and in reference to the rent as well.
All right. Just a couple more questions. You're using a cap rate of 5.5.
That's correct.
Yeah. So I look at your comparables for cap rates, and I guess I look at the number of units, maybe when they were built too, but when they were sold, all factors considered. But I'm looking at comparable, your cap rate number 3 would translate to be 5%. It's got 90 units. I'm looking at, I think it's 1 and 2, which got 65 units. It's older, but 5.25. I'm looking at also comparable number 6, which has got 148 units, but the age is not there, but you have a rate of 4.95. And finally, number 8, which got 68 units, but built in 1961, but that transacted at a cap rate of 5.01. So everything points to a cap rate, possibly for the subject, of 5%. However, you are using 0.5% more. So I'm wondering your reasoning behind it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I may not have covered that in enough detail in the presentation, so I certainly see where you're coming there. What we're looking at here on this chart is sales of market apartments. So as you pointed out, the 3 most recent ones being 3, 5, and 6, 2015, 2020, and 2015 construction dates, significant number of units. They traded between 4.95%, 5%, and 5.3%. So there is within those newly constructed ones, those are the only real sale transactions that happened in that time frame. So a very small pool again, but we're looking at 5 to 5.25, call it essentially 5 to 5.3%, or 4.95 to 5.3%. So there is some variability within that range. What we're looking at with the subject property again is we're not looking at a market apartment, and you can't, while you have to value it as a market apartment, you have to also take into account the physical structure and the additional risk that would be involved if you were to take that property and put it on the market as a market apartment and attempt to sell it, which is essentially the exercise that we're going through here. So you have an independent living facility that has generally smaller units. You have units that either have some of them have full kitchens, some of them have a kitchenette as shown, and some of them have shared kitchenettes as well, where they're sharing with an adjacent unit. So what happens when you take that property and you put it on the marketplace to rent it out? Are you going to be able to derive the same rent? Are you going to have the same demand for those type of units versus a standard market apartment built at the same time, etc.? No, you're not. There's going to be a delta there. And the other additional factor that you're looking at is the increased costs of the additional common areas that you have built into the property. So while some modern apartments may have a gym and a meeting room, things of that nature, they don't typically have the extensive amenity spaces that an independent living facility would have, such as the full dining room, typically additional breakout dining room areas. I believe this is described extensively in the city's brief here. So you have all of that space that needs to be maintained, kept up, heated, etc., insured, all of those things. So there are additional costs that are borne by the owner, as well as units that typically are not going to be comparable to a standard market apartment built at the same time in the same location. So there is additional risk, and we've accommodated that in our cap rate of 5.5%. Now, I will point out that earlier in the cycle, I was looking at a higher capitalization rate than 5.5%, but ultimately the Board of Revision decided on 5.5%, and in this case, we were willing to accept that based on the overall valuation.
I thank you, Mr. Smith. Mr. Chairman, that's it for my questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Anderson.
Just a question in regards to the location. You mentioned about the location maybe having some adjacent properties that weren't as desirable to live up against, but thinking about its location close to the U of M and some of the neighborhood type commercial properties that are close by, such as restaurants and corner store, the rapid transit and the university, would you see those as beneficial? Like there's other high density senior living facilities across Pembina there as well, right?
I'm just trying to make sure that I answer the right question here. So is the location beneficial? Is that the question?
Yes. Is the location desirable?
So I'll answer that in context, I guess. We were, I believe when I was discussing that, it was in reference to 2390 McPhillips and how this isn't particularly superior to that location.
Mm-hmm.
It's property in a similar situation, surrounded by commercial development, Walmart, etc. This one is in a narrow little space backed up against a strip mall with national tenancies, Safeway nearby, lots of that. So in that way, it's not really any different. There are just as many renters out in North Kildonan or West Kildonan, rather, Maples, as there are in Fort Richmond. Now, does the university draw tenants? Yes, they do. It can be a problematic issue in that you do have renters that rent for the 8 months of the school term and then they're gone. Whether they should be or not, it does happen on a regular basis, and they can face increased vacancy in that area. Now, is there a pool of tenants there? Absolutely, as there are in other areas. So I guess that would be my answer with regard to the area. And I don't know that the rapid transit actually goes by this. There's certainly bus service as there would be for other developments on major thoroughfares.
Okay, thank you very much for that. Appreciate it. That's all my questions.
Thank you. Mr. Smith, on a few occasions now, when you've been discussing the bonus that you're putting on the cap rate or the increased cap rate, you've talked about the market parameters and the fact that seniors' residences will have smaller apartment sizes.
Mm-hmm.
You have not provided any evidence as to the apartment sizes in this complex.
No, I don't believe we had that to include, but they're typically on the smaller size. And if you're looking at a studio apartment, they're going to be smaller. But no, I don't have that information in the report in front of us today.
Okay.
But it is commonly known that is how these are developed.
So your model, as it were, would have suggested that this had smaller apartments.
Well, the model, but we also viewed the property as well.
And you've inspected this property?
We have inspected the property, yes.
Thank you. I don't have anything further. Now, I believe that there is some rebuttal evidence to which you referred, Mr. Baracus.
Yeah, if we could pan that out or bring that out.
Have we gotten that, Nicole?
The rebuttal?
Yes.
Yep, it's all in your SharePoint.
Oh, I've got it here, yes. Okay. Is everyone turn to it?
Yep.
Okay, then please proceed, Mr. Marcus.
Okay, so basically, what this is in reference to, it's in reference to the applicant's page 20, their calculation, and this is for 95 Paget 2, where cap rate is the sole issue. So I'll just do this once. I ask that it's considered both. It's in regards to the calculation of the 4.71, not 79 cap rate. So what I did is I'm basically showing my calculations. So you can see I used the most recent income for the full year prior to the sale. It's the most recent vacancy rate, which is more reflective of market, to come up with my effective gross income. And then I stabilize in a manner in which both the city of Winnipeg and the applicants do in terms of insurance, management, utilities, repair and maintenance, taxes, and whatnot. So with the expenses stabilized and a net operating income known, using the sale price, it generates a 4.71 cap rate. So this is simply, I'm showing you basically my homework, how I came up with the 471. Also, if you go to page 2, here we go. So we got the picture. You can see that this is the commercial I'm referring to. It's the Walmart back there. You get to 2390 McPhillips, going up McPhillips, and then going across McPhillips down Beecher, past the commercial area with the McPhillips Toyota, and then the other stuff. There's Walmart, and then you go into the parking lots. If you've ever been up there, you can't see the apartment from the road. It's behind all this stuff. Whereas in contrast, you see 920 Chancellor, where about 50% of it is adjacent to other multifamily development. So it's simply not the same. Well, the applicant is correct. There is some commercial to the east. It's not in the same intensity. So that compounded with its proximity, 3-minute drive from University of Manitoba. You know, we're calculating 471 on McPhillips. You look at the picture, we're at 465 for Chancellor. Not for nothing, the building is newer. It seems to make sense. And then, you know, they have made the same contention with Paget. We're not talking about that. If you skip to past the picture of Paget, we got the mailer. So if you want, you can verify the numbers I put into the spreadsheet. Totals I added up, I included it there. And then I know you keep flipping past the mailer. We're not supposed to talk about decisions, but the applicant did. So I did attach some recent decisions.
And I'm going to tell you the same thing that I told Mr. Smith, that comparison of other assessments aren't going to be considered as evidence of the board.
I thought so. So I'll just leave it there in case.
But you had to try, right?
Well, I mean, he tried, so why not, right?
Thank you, but we won't be giving much weight to that, if any.
Okay, I can appreciate that. So basically, what we're saying is they've got 5% on this. I'm not sure how they came up to 5%. The way I calculated it here, 4.71, helpfully discuss my stabilization decisions if necessary. That's our rebuttal.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Questions?
Yeah, so, and this is to speak to the process of rebuttal, which is always challenging. Would you agree that this is the first time that I have seen this evidence here today?
I don't know.
We just received it today. I just.
Yeah, today.
10 minutes ago here at 5.
Yeah.
Okay. So I haven't had an opportunity to review how this was done. I see that it's before me, unless we want to take a 45-minute break for me to go through it by detail. As we discussed before, the process that we follow in developing cap rate is to look at the income and expense and go through the stabilization process, and part of that is based on obviously professional judgment. There can be gaps in how the valuation is done, correct?
Mr. Smith, this is a time for questions, not for statements. If there's an opportunity, or if you desire an opportunity to summarize at the end, absolutely. But this is a time for questions, please.
And I certainly respect that, Mr. Chair. I was forming a question and getting to that. So I do apologize if it was taken as inappropriate, and I certainly don't mean to be so. That's not my intent.
Okay.
In developing capitalization rate, is there an element of professional judgment in the determination of how the stabilization is done? And can that impact the capitalization rate that is derived?
Yes, definitely.
Okay, that was the question that I was looking to get across there. The statement that you made with regard to location for 2390 McPhillips and 920 Chancellor, that the development is not as intensive. So when I look at 2390 McPhillips here and the location of it, we go to the north of 2390 McPhillips. There's essentially a couple of automobile dealerships and then vacant land beyond that. Is that correct?
To the north, yes.
Okay. And to the south, we have the Walmart, as you'd indicated, a couple of restaurants and auto dealers, and then we're at Seven Oaks Hospital, correct?
Yep.
And to the east of that Seven Oaks Hospital, you have the Power Center node that's located at Leela and McPhillips, correct?
Yep.
Okay, and if we look at the 920 Chancellor, we're looking at property that is behind the strip mall as located. If you were to look out, you're essentially looking on the strip mall, and then you have the JISC, the Safeway, the Shoppers Drug Mart, etc., just to the south of that, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Is the city aware that the appeals referenced in the back of this are being appealed?
In terms of 2390 McPhillips, or in terms of?
No, in the rebuttal information at the back, you had provided a couple of sheets regarding recent decisions. Is the city aware that those are being appealed?
I would assume they would be.
Okay. That's all of my questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Anderson, any questions on the rebuttal evidence?
I have no questions. Thank you.
Mr. Merritt, questions on the rebuttal evidence?
Nothing from me, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you. And I did reference summaries. Mr. Assessor, any summary?
Yeah, basically, I mean, it comes down to, we're not valuing this as an assisted living. We're going to be assigning additional risk and cap rate premium for its operation as assisted living. We'd have to incorporate the business income as well, but we both agree that that's not what we're doing. So it's just apartment rents, which we agree on, expenses, which we agree on, and then it's just a cap rate issue. We feel that very strongly that we've supported our cap rate of 4.65. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Smith. Summary?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. So in summary, yes, we are not valuing the business component of these properties here today. That's not our role. We're valuing the realty as indicated, and that is what we've done. We're not assigning any increased risk due to the operations of an assisted living. We're valuing the property based on the physical structure, location, etc. We've spoken about the issues that add to the increased risk, that being the units themselves, the build out, the additional cost for the property, etc., as well as demand for those particular type of units on the market if you were to put it on the market as a standard market apartment. So there will be a lift in rate. 5% is the bottom end of the market, as we've shown in our in both our capitalization rate chart, as well as backed up by the main commercial brokerages, 5% being the bottom end, representing the best transactions of most recent construction. And obviously there's going to be a lift from there based on increased risk that we referred to if the subject property was on the market as a standard market apartment, which it's not. That is the exercise we go through. So the 5.5% capitalization rate is very well founded based on the evidence before us. Thank you.
Thank you. That will conclude this matter, and we can move to the last matter on the list unless anyone needs a break.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, can we take 5 or 10?
Absolutely. What time is it now? 11:22. Let's come back at 11:30. Welcome back. We'll move to the last matter on the docket today. Item number 595, Pageant. Mr. Assessor, can you begin your presentation, please?
Sure. File number 23108. This is again 55 plus and assisted living and senior apartment. We are going with the market trends, and all parameters and values are model driven. Roll number is 10064411100. Address 95 Paget Street. Roll year 2024. Reference date April 1st, 2021. Classification 20 taxable. Assessed value 17,734,000. One building, actual build year 2012. Number of suites 106. 48 indoor parking stall. 80 outdoor parking stall. Up-to-date income information in the second page, and no sales history. Income valuation summary. You can see in page 3. We have 3 bachelor units, 60 bedrooms. 61 bedrooms units, 43 2 bedrooms units, and total 160 units. Average monthly rent for units 1,189. Gross potential rents 1,512,522. Expense ratio 43.7%. We can get into the net operating income 815,785. Glancing ahead, applicant and city have the same NOI, and only dispute is the cap rate. So our cap rate is 4.6, and the estimated market values come around 17,734,000. So in page 4, you can see the location of the property. It's closer to the IKEA and some the commercial area, but it's really in the neighborhood, residential neighborhood. And in a previous we discussed in a previously, this is like this one has like just one road to access to the apartment. It's like quite area. You can see the picture of the exterior of the building, and I'm not going to talk about the rent comparable because we are agree with the NOI. So about capitalization rates, you can see in page 10 and 11, we already discussed and we submitted the information. In page 13, you can see the picture of the buildings, and you can see the amenities on page 14. 15, you can see the 15, 16 and 17, you can see the interior of the units. You can see the full-size kitchen in those units, full-size units. You can see the common area in page 20, 21. So we basically go with the model with this value and every parameters. So I just include the income information in the page 25 to page 30. I'm not going to discuss with those information because we are this is a assisted living apartment, so we are going with the average rent for the average rent in the market. So that's all my presentation now.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Questions?
Yes, just very briefly. Looking at the photos of the property beginning on page 19 there, 19, 20, 21 onwards, 22, 23. Would you agree that there is extensive common area in this property that wouldn't be present in a standard market apartment?
I think yes.
Okay, that's all of my questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Anderson.
No, I have no questions. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is a retirement home, and it's got a dining room, does it not?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. So there's assisted living and going on there?
Yes, it's partially independent. It's partially
and partially independent. Okay.
Yeah.
So the city's pretty consistent in regards to their cap rates, but I noticed that this one here was it's a really minor point, but this one was built in 2012, and it's got a lower, just a little lower rate, than the brand new ones at 4.65. Any comment?
Yeah, that is correct. I mean, the cap rate was assigned by the model, not big enough a difference to really kind of like make those little adjustments.
Very good.
Okay.
Very good. Thank you, Matthew. Mr. Chairman, thank you very kindly. Thank you.
Thank you. I was wondering about that cap rate as well, so I'll say that's answered. Mr. Smith, your presentation, please.
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Chair. So the property we're dealing with here today is 95 Paget. Some of the basics have already been covered, but we'll look at my page 3 quickly here. 106 total units, 3 of them being bachelor, 60 of them being 1 beds, and 43 of them being 2 bedrooms. So you'll see that we do match up with the city's unit count in this particular situation as built. And there is a difference with this particular project in that it is both independent assisted living as well as standard market apartments. So the residents have the option of either participating in the assisted living portion of the property, that being all of the services that are provided, or simply renting a unit. Now, that being said, the units are designed for assisted living, so the same issues that we discussed on the prior property are present. It's simply an option that the residents have. Now, I believe most of them are used as assisted living, but that is an option that is available to the residents. Now, as cap rate is our main issue here, I will point out, and this is shown on the summary page on page 25, that I have made a slight adjustment in capitalization rate in my valuation here. And I'm using 5.25% in valuing the subject property, as we do have a component of the property being standard market apartment. Now, if we move into the photos, we also have photos of the property beginning on page number 4 onwards. It is built in 2012. It certainly is fine. It's indicative of the time it was built in, still in good shape, good quality, well located, etc. And the photos are there for you to see, running through page number 11. As you can see in the city's brief, perhaps a little bit more than mine, the amenity areas, the additional common areas are quite extensive. So we have obviously the main dining room. They have a private theater room, several fitness rooms, I believe, on different floors. If I recall correctly, there's a separate billiard room, private dining room, as mentioned, what they term a multi-purpose room, which has a separate kitchen attached to it, as well as a library area as well. So these are all, again, spaces that are not present in standard market apartments. So the trick is we're valuing the bricks and mortar, we're valuing the realty. So how is this different from a standard market apartment? Well, in all the same ways that I discussed before. All of those carry forward here. We've made a slight adjustment in the capitalization rate, again, to 5.25% to better reflect this particular property. And our summary of the valuation is shown on page number 25. So applying the cap rate to our common NOI of $815,785 gives us a final rounded market value of $15,539,000. Now, what I will point out, and I didn't cover this when we went through the valuation, if you look at the summary page 25, the expense allowance that we're agreeing to with the city is $633,211. If you flip back to my page 18, and indeed in the addenda materials, it's there for you to see. The actual year-end expenses, year-end 2020 were $699,000, $773. So you're looking at a significant actual delta there. Now, why did we not account for that? Well, we're looking at the overall value of the property. So both the rental income, the expenses, the vacancy, capitalization rate. So there was no need to increase the expense allowance in order to reflect the actuals, as that's accommodated in the other parameters of the valuation. So our final value is $15,539,000. The addenda materials are the same, the income and expense, and the other materials that are there for you to see. And I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. Mr. Assessor.
No question.
Mr. Merritt.
Mr. Merritt, are you on mute?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
I have no questions, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Anderson.
Mr. Chairman, I have no questions.
Thank you.
Just a couple of questions. Thanks for your presentation. In regards to the vacancy rate, so this building, like of note, I see 25%. Is that correct?
So that was, and I apologize. I meant to cover that, but I was trying to save us some time, and I forgot.
Okay.
Forgot that part. I actually want to adjust that. Their income expense and rent roll submission was somewhat confusing and duplicated. So it's not actually 25%. We did some revision of what that is, and it comes in at about 12%, 12.5% vacancy, which is obviously higher than a standard market apartment. And we're not asking for an increase on the vacancy side either.
Right, I just saw the 25% and wondered, so thank you very much for that.
Yeah, I apologize for that error.
Thank you. The other question I had, you mentioned about some apartments are just regular apartments, and then some tenants in the apartments take advantage of the additional amenities, meals, etc. You would never know what, like from any given time, what percentage are regular apartments and then what percentage would be taking advantage of the assisted living amenities.
I don't have an exact breakdown as of the valuation date or any other time, but
yeah,
indication from the ownership and management is that it's largely assisted living, but not entirely.
Okay. Okay, and the suite size here, the average is about 1,000 square feet, I believe I saw. So like they're a little bit like they're the regular size apartment for assisted living, right?
I don't I saw that particular
I guess that was in the I apologize for that. I'll withdraw that question. That was in the assessor's presentation. So sorry.
Well, again, I don't have a breakdown on that.
Right. And additionally, with this facility, there are indoor parking spots too, right? 48 indoor parking.
Yes, and there was indoor parking with the prior facility as well.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, perfect. Thank you so much for your presentation, and thank you for answering my questions.
Thank you.
I just have a question about the allocation of the suites between the assisted living and the market rate, the market rental ones. There's no physical difference between those suites. Are the people will rent them and choose to opt into the facilities or the meals, or have they got some that are allocated specifically for market rental and some that are specifically marketed for seniors / assisted living?
That was a question that I had as well with ownership and management, and no, they're not separate suites that are assigned for one. You can you can take any suite and occupy it either as assisted living unit or as a rental unit.
Okay, thank you. That was my only question. I don't have anything further. Mr. Assessor, any need to summarize?
I mean, we feel that the overall valuation for this property is pretty solid. It's only at a market value of 167 per unit, which for 2012 in Lindenwoods, I think is pretty much in line for an independent living type property that might have, you know, maybe a bit more on the basic side finishes. It's true that it does have a lot of common area, but a lot of new buildings do have common areas too, in terms of gyms and rooms you can rent, you know, larger kitchens where you can hold gatherings. While there is more of that in this component, I don't think it's too much different. So I feel our overall valuation and evidence for is sound. That's my summation.
Thank you. Mr. Smith, summary?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. So again, our major differences is obviously cap rate. We've discussed that extensively. There's really no basis for assigning a cap rate under 5% based on the market evidence. And when we look at independent living facilities such as these and the risk factors discussed, there's obviously a premium that would be applied apples to apples, comparing them to a market apartment in the same location built at the same time. And the reasons have already been discussed, so I'll wrap it up there. Thank you.
Thank you. That will conclude this matter then. Thank you very much, Mr. Smith, and thank you, Mr. Assessors. The assessors. We have heard all items scheduled, and this hearing is now adjourned. Thank
I
you.
appreciate your time, everyone. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Hmm.